Hey guys, if you're looking to learn more about the 2025 child tax credit, you're in the right place. I'm a licensed CPA with over a decade of tax experience, and this channel is dedicated to simplifying taxes for you. So let's dive in. For 2025, the maximum child tax credit increases from $2,000 to $2,200 per qualifying child. To be a qualifying child, your dependent must be 1. Be under 17 at the end of the tax year. 2. Be one of the following on this list. 3. Not provide more than half of his or own support for the tax year. 4. Have lived with you for more than half of the tax year. 5. Be claimed as a dependent on your tax return. 6. Not file a joint return for the tax year. 7. Be a U.S. citizen, U.S. national, or U.S. resident alien. And 8. Must have a social security number that is valid for employment and is issued before the due date of your tax return, which includes extensions. So if your dependent meets all of this criteria, they would be considered a qualified child for purposes of the child tax credit. A tax credit can help reduce your tax liability or in some cases generate a full or partial refund. So for example, let's assume Mark had one qualified child and he owed exactly $2,200 in federal taxes. The child tax credit will help lower his tax liability to 0. Now let's assume the same example, but now Mark doesn't owe any federal taxes and instead he's expecting a tax refund. Well, Mark won't receive the full $2,200 as a refund. He'll receive the refundable portion of the child tax credit, which is $1,700 in 2025. The refundable portion of the child tax credit is called the additional child tax credit. Now there are limits to these credits. For the child tax credit, if your modified adjusted gross income exceeds $400,000 for married filing jointly or $200,000 for single, then your credit will be reduced by $50 for every $1,000 above the threshold. So for example, let's assume Bob is single and make $210,000. We would subtract the $200,000 from $210,000 to get $10,000 above the threshold. We would then take the $10,000 divided by 1,000, which gets us to 10. We would then multiply the 10 by $50, which equals $500. Bob's child tax credit is then reduced by $500, which means he's only able to apply $1,700 of the credit to his federal taxes. Now, the additional child tax credit is limited to 15% of your earned income over $2,500. So for example, let's assume Harry has modified adjusted gross income of $20,000 and he has 2 qualifying children. You would subtract $2,500 from $20,000, which gets you $17,500, and then you would multiply $17,500 by 15%, which gets you $2,625. Keep in mind, we had mentioned that the additional child tax credit is $1,700 per qualifying child in 2025. Since Harry has 2 qualified kids, that's $3,400, but it's limited to $2,625. Harry would receive $2,625 as a tax refund. So how do you claim these credits? You'll have to fill out Form 8812 and attach it to your Form 1040. However, if the IRS has previously denied you a claim to these credits, you'll have to fill out Form 8862 instead and attach it to your Form 1040.